to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. My guest, Jessica Mann-Amato, IIDA, is a principal and shareholder overseeing workplace strategy, space planning, and interior design for Mancini Duffy, a New York architectural firm. Jessica cut her teeth devising beautiful and functional interiors for consumer goods companies, digital media movers and shakers, and boutique financial firms. A graduate of Ringling College of Art and Design, before joining Mancini, Jessica worked with Spectre Group, HLW International LLP, Nelson, Fernstall and Simon Architects, and Conant Architects. She also served as the 2009 to 2010 IIDA New York chapter president. Today, Jessica shares the truly amazing tech that her firm developed and uses to go digital, to save time, to help clients get comfortable with design decisions. You will hear Jessica describe one of the major benefits is that their new tech tool streamlines decision making. Now, doesn't that sound nice? Let's hear what Jessica has to say. Hi, Jessica. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hi, LuAnn. Thank you for having me.
I am excited to talk to you, Jessica, because your architecture firm, Mancini Duffy, is leaning into technology in a way. I mean, you even described to me that you have an R&D department, which my brain just goes, really? Like, whoa. And so we'll get into that. But where you really, had me at the hello moment was that you are involved in the initiative at your firm in adapting to a paperless environment. And I know you had a much more official, tagline for it, but that's what I heard. And I have to say, it resonates with me because, of course, with COVID, all of us working remotely, even my company, WindowWorks. Now, my podcast business, LuAnn Inc. is entirely remote and is paperless, but WindowWorks is not. And
right.
We were able to function for the 55 or so days until we could go back into the office. However, it scares the heebie-jeebies out of me to think about. I already know the things that drop through the cracks, to think about going paperless. However, I have my colleague Vita, who does the WTF shows with me, the Window Treatment Friday shows with me, and she does run her window treatment business entirely paperless. So this intrigues me. So talk to me a little bit about this initiative and your role in it, and then you're going to walk us through it a little. Okay, Jessica?
Okay, great. Yes. So when Christian Giordano took over the firm in 2017, he really wanted to change the way that we were working within the architecture and design realm. And it was an extremely paper-heavy environment. So his goal was really to create something that was an immersive and very tech-forward environment. So fast forward to when I came on board 2 years ago, and my goal had also always been to create design in a paperless environment. So we really melded together wonderfully, and we've been able to continue to push technology in this way. So our goal is to not only have a design process that's entirely immersive and paperless, but also to change the way that the architecture industry works in general, so that hopefully one day none of us are having to print out construction documents. We're not having to print out paper to give to the DOB, that everything is conducted within an immersive environment, and that we're able to, like you were just mentioning, we're able to keep notes and track things within that environment so that from start to finish, you're in that environment and you're never having to work with paper.
So, yeah, like, so what it is fortunately through Diana, who is my marketing coordinator, she's introduced me to things like Trello, right? So that's
Yes,
probably like, entry level to what, you're talking about what you're doing. But because of something like that, I can start to visualize that there is a way for things to not fall through the crack. And as I mentioned, Vita uses Airtable. However, it still does, like, and maybe it's my generation, right? I mean, this could be an Achilles heel of mine, but it still does. It frightens me a little bit. And when you talk about having the blueprints and so forth, even things like, how can I even see the details? Like, I know that you can enlarge it, but, enlarging it and then I lose the full scope. Like, I don't know if I'm just being really just too old school here. Right? I don't know. Like, tell me a little bit about, I guess you have to convince me or show me the major advantages that you see when you and your company, your architectural firm, is really pushing towards this initiative.
absolutely. So let me start by kind of walking you through the process, and then maybe I'll be able to paint the picture. So when we get a project and we start doing initial test fits, looking at multiple locations for a client, this is after we've done workplace strategy and programming, so we know exactly what the program is that we're moving forward with. But from the time that we start looking at any kind of floor plan, we are working within Revit and building it into a 3D environment. So we have what we call our planning palette, which is a palette of, architectural finishes, ceiling finishes, flooring materials, all different types of furniture. And we're working within that palette to create immediately a black and white 3D environment so that as we're showing a test fit to a client, we can show them in real time in 3D.
Mm.
So instead of looking at a 2D plan when they're trying to decide which building they want to go to, we're able to immerse them into that 3D environment in first person, and they can, look around within the environment and really understand the benefits of the building. Are the columns too big? Are the ceilings too low? What does the space actually feel like as you're walking through it? How does the program lay out well in the space? And so you can very quickly feel if the spaces function well for their programs.
So let me ask you a question. So what you're describing there is like, it sounds like possibly a commercial project where maybe I'm a company of 40 or 50 people, maybe I'm a company of 10, and I'm coming to your firm, Mancini Duffy, and I'm saying, I'm looking at this location, this location, and this location. And you're saying, beyond just standing in the space and deciding whether to lease or buy the space, you're sort of blowing up and creating a 3D environment of what it might look like once you design the space for me. And then I can really decide, oh, this has a great vibe, or, oh, I didn't realize once you did all that, it's going to feel closed in or whatever.
Exactly. And so at that point, it's not necessarily designed yet. We're
Right.
putting things into the space that will give you an idea of what it could look like in the end. But at that point, it's really more about the buildings themselves and
Mm.
understanding the architectural envelope of the space. And if that space speaks to us and it can fit our program well. But yes, you're exactly right. As we're working with workplace interiors clients and we want to be able to help them to choose which real estate location they want to move to.
And the thing is, I realized what I did. I made an assumption, old school, that I was like, well, why wouldn't I just visit it? You know what I mean? And like I was like,
Right.
and so, but you're going to build it out a little, so I'm really going to get the vibe. But this is 2021, so maybe I'm a client in Chicago thinking about a space in your area in New York City, and I don't have to visit it if you can do this for me, right? I can get all the stats and get all the pictures and speak to the realtor that's either selling or buying. I'm either selling or buying it, whatever. I'm talking about leasing or
Right.
buying it from. And then I might do one site visit if I'm going to make a major purchase, but this is that whole virtual, post COVID, we do things from wherever we are type of environment, right?
Right, exactly. So we work with clients all over the world and
Mm.
we're able to help them, achieve their goals from afar. We don't have to go walk every single site. We can help them to visualize what that site feels like from their laptop, from anywhere. So it's extremely helpful in that process. So then
Interesting.
once we have established the building that we're going to and we start working through the design process, that's when we're going in and we're making the bold architectural moves, the concept ideas and developing multiple ideas for that. So it helps us to solidify what our design concept is by showing them again in real time in the environment what each of those design concepts starts to feel like, what those big moves turn into within the space from an architectural perspective. And then once we have kind of solidified what the big ideas are, we start layering in the finishes, the furniture. And what we find so helpful is that we can very quickly, with our ToolBelt, which is a proprietary software which we've created that helps us within our 3D environment, we can very quickly sort through multiple finish options and change out finishes in real time. We can sort through, multiple reflected ceiling plan options. We can assign different furniture layouts and furniture selections throughout the floor plate. We can measure space and see how spatially it's working out or not working out. And so within that environment with our clients as an integral team member with us in that environment, we're able to very quickly gain consensus on the design process as we're going through from schematic design to design development because they're able to very quickly visualize everything that we're talking about.
Okay, I obviously I can understand the benefit of that as a consumer, right? As your client, it's instead of you just like 90,000 times saying it's going to kind of look like this, it's like here's what it's actually going to look like, right? So
Yes.
clear me up because since this is not my profession and I've of course heard the word Revit before, but I've never used it. So are you saying that like for all the designers listening and architects listening, Revit does all of this and then your proprietary tool belt takes it a step further? Or no, LuAnn, like because I feel like there is tell me the difference between Revit and then where tool belt takes it.
So we're building the environment in Revit, and there's a lot of other programs that you can use. We just choose to use Revit. You can do SketchUp, you can do 3D CAD. There's a lot of other options of what you could do, but we use Revit, and we're building everything within the Revit environment. And then ToolBelt is an add-on that we're adding in, which is what allows us to manipulate the environment.
Okay.
So it's essentially a tool belt that you have that you can, just like if you're using a gaming software on your laptop, or we also have what we call our VR arena. So we can put you in the goggles and you can be in it. So we have multiple options of how you can view the immersive environment. But you're looking at a tool belt and it's options that you can pick on for finishes, for measuring, for manipulating space, for choosing different furniture items. And on this tool belt, you're selecting those items and then you're able to adapt it when you're in the environment. So that's the difference, is that we have created a way to change the environment while you're in it, to measure the environment, to take notes in the environment, to really zoom in to, a detail that we don't feel like maybe is worked out well enough and we want to talk through it. So not only is it extremely helpful as we're going through the design process with the client and it helps them to make decisions faster, it's also extremely helpful from a team perspective as we're working through the design with our architects and interior designers for us to be able to work out the design details internally, because you can literally zoom in, dissect, take apart, and then rebuild multiple options very quickly until we can get to what we feel like is the right design solution.
Okay, exciting. Okay, and so you're this is your you design, you do all the things you do at your firm, but this is also your side mission, is to have the design environment and the design workflow to be paperless. And this tool belt is like basically Revit on steroids. It sounds like it's like taking what's there and making it even better, right?
It's Revit, and it's a, a rendering software, and it's a project management software. It's all of that kind of combined into one thing. And so yes, it's allowing us to take all the lessons that we've learned, from our clients when we're in an immersive environment, and kind of combine it into one package that will allow us to not only view but also manipulate and then manage, take notes, measure, and keep track of everything that we've done within every what we call our 360 design session, so that we can quickly share that with the client. And we always have a video reference of what we've done in every design session.
Okay. And how is this being used within your architecture firm across the board, or is it like, come on, we're not all up to speed yet? It takes a minute to learn this. How easy or hard is it to do it?
So that's part of what we've done. I think when we started this initiative in 2017, we had a few very powerful computers that could run all of our software. And now, literally, the entire firm of 65 people, all of our computers can run it, and we're all working in this environment. Some of us touch it a lot more than others, but we have made it our mission through what we call our 360 design process to always work this way in this immersive environment. So we don't want to do things the way that, we've done it in the past, where you're printing out a presentation, you present the presentation to the client, you go back and make changes, and then you print out and present a presentation again, or you're viewing a static PDF on screen with the client. We want everything to be within this immersive environment. And so we've made it our goal as a firm that everyone is educated in it, everyone has computers that can handle it, and that, across the board, we're able to do this with our clients for every single project.
And have you had any clients that are like, could you just print it for me, please? I don't get this. I mean, the thing is, your firm is 100-year-old firm, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So, and I could see if you were brand spanking new and you're all millennials and everybody's on board and you're attracting millennials, you know what I'm saying? But you probably have clients that have been with the firm for generations. Do you have pushback from people, or is it just so fabulous that nobody minds?
It's interesting. I had that recently with a client who we had been working with for 30 years, and had not gone through this process with us fully. And so we said, look, we don't want to do it the way that we have always done it with you. We'd really like to get you on board with our 360 process. We feel like it'll be extremely beneficial. This particular client has a very large board. And so getting decisions made takes quite a while sometimes. So we wanted to be able to get buy-in quickly and get decisions made, so that this particular project that we were working on with a tight schedule, so that we'd be able to adhere to that schedule essentially, and not have the back and forth time frame that we would typically have with the board. So they did go into the 360 design session immersed in the environment on initial test fit, viewing everything in black and white. And I think they were just so wowed by it that they were completely bought into the process after that, because it is so easy to visualize everything that we're talking them through. It's easy to point to and highlight things. It's easy to make changes on the fly and get buy-in literally at the end of a 1 hour design session. So I think they immediately saw the benefits of it. And when we do need to send them something now, we will send them a video of the design session. So that helps them to be able to explain things to, say, board members who were not able to attend the session that day. And then also have a record of all the decisions that we've made in the process. So we haven't really had that where there's too much pushback, because once they get into it, the benefits of it are just overwhelming.
Well, and I love that. It's funny because we just recently, a couple weeks ago, had Ethan Butte here from Bomb Bomb talking
Hmm.
about the power of video, of not just video for marketing your firm when you go to the About You page and there's all the beautiful, music and all the cuts in and out about the different partners and stuff, but about the communication of video. And I can see when you say you now can send a video of the design session to this person's board, because we always want to sell our ideas ourselves, right?
Right.
It's so much more powerful than somebody going back with a binder or a booklet, and here's the drawings, and this is what they said. And, you're relying on the person you spoke to sell your idea. And that can be
Right.
hairy, right?
Yes, absolutely. It can backfire.
Yeah.
So I think it's so important for everyone from the board and from the client perspective to hear and understand the design from our voice so that we can sell it. And that does enable us to be able to accommodate things like someone not being able to attend a meeting.
And of course, this relates to the designer out there that's running his or her own firm. It's when the husband isn't at the meeting or the wife isn't at the meeting. It's like,
Exactly.
can I just tell them why this should be this way, right? I don't want
Exactly.
you to sell it for me because you're going to forget. And also this new environment, like for you, a big company, you have clients globally coming into the New York area, but even now with designers and e-design and all the things, it's like you're with Instagram. It's funny. Sarah Brennan is a designer in North Carolina, and she Voxered me last week. She goes, I have a client, that found me on Instagram that's in Montclair, New Jersey. Is that near you? I'm like, it's 3 miles away. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And you're just like, there's a hundred amazing designers in New York, New Jersey, but that is where the world is going. That the travel and the thing is not the barrier anymore, right?
Right.
Especially if you are adopting these types of technologies in your design firm.
Yes, absolutely. And so I think the pandemic actually helped us in many regards to develop it further because the way that we were doing it before is that we would bring clients in to our what we call our design lab into the VR arena. They would put the goggles on and they would be immersed in the environment.
Mm.
But we developed ToolBelt further past that so that everyone can literally log into their laptop. And this is what is also extremely proprietary to ToolBelt and takes it well beyond what Revit or any other program can do. Is it's similar to a gaming platform in that you can sit here from your laptop and multiple people from all over the world can join that design at once, and we can all walk around together within the 3D space.
Wow.
So I can see your avatar, from wherever you are. We had a client in London, we had someone in upstate New York, we had someone in the city recently in a design session, and then a lot of other people from other places, and everyone can see each other's avatars. We can see what each person is pointing to and talking about. And so it very quickly allows us in this global world to gain consensus on projects from wherever you are.
Wow. I mean, honestly, when I think about some of the big firms that I've interviewed, Wilson Associates, and these that are global firms, that's that's crazy,
Yes.
Or even when I think about, firms like Laura Umansky, who, has locations in Dallas and Colorado. It just like, it's crazy to think about that you can really take this whole thing to the next level. So tell me, Mancini Duffy, R&D department, what is that about? Like, I can see what the result of it is, but did your firm always have this, or is this also a byproduct of the new leadership with Christian?
Yes, it is a byproduct of the new leadership. And essentially, it was again kind of wanting to disrupt the way that things had always been done. So not only did we want to push technology and utilize technology very differently within the entire design and architecture process, but also we wanted to do things like 3D print product. So we have what we call a micro factory of 3D printers, and we've done things like design furniture, design lighting, we've designed branding walls. We also are utilizing drones to do surveys. So we had a large, multi-campus industrial project that we're working on, and we were able to, with our 2 licensed drone pilots, 2 of our architects are licensed. We were able to take our drones and survey the entire site, many, many miles of site, and also to survey all of the interiors of the warehouses, which then creates a point cloud, which will enable us to put it into the Revit model. So from that drone survey, we immediately have existing conditions captured in the Revit model.
Wow.
And it's a lot of things like that we're looking to do. So it's from every facet of the design and architecture process, from initial, before we even get started, pre-planning, through the end of the process. So we're really looking to disrupt it in many different ways. So it's really a platform for us, within our R&D department, to say, hey, I have this crazy idea of something that I'd like to do. And the great thing about Mancini Duffy is that we embrace that. There are amazing ideas and amazing drivers for change that come out of what seems like one little crazy idea, that is spurred from a meeting that we're all having, that then turns into something like our tool belt.
Wow.
So it's really a platform for us to explore ideas and to look at ways to push technology in all facets of design.
What's interesting to me about it is that I'm always cognizant of when an entrepreneur has this other amazing idea, because most of us are visionaries. Once, if you're an actual true entrepreneur, you probably have, and I know my brain is the same way, and I've read dozens of emails from designers and so forth emailing saying, all day long, my brain is just like, here's an idea, here's an idea,
Yes.
here's an idea. You know what I mean? And it's like, so the thing is, what's really interesting for me is to sit and reflect on one of the things that I think is the most challenging thing for a true visionary to do is to have the discipline to understand which ideas to chase and which ideas to say, just because I can doesn't mean I should. Like, it's taking me away from my mission. And so here you have this visionary Christian who comes in and he says, we're going to drive towards this immersive experience, and then you are, and you're like, and I want design in a paperless experience. So you're melding your two ideas. But then the observation to me is, and let's have an R&D department and come up with it
Yes.
on our own. Like, my brain goes, wait a minute, we design buildings, we design houses, we design workplace spaces. Like, we are not a technology company, but you're successfully doing it. That's something.
Yes, and I think it's really having our leadership all buy into that. We want to put a percentage of our profit into R&D, and we want to take these crazy ideas and develop them and see which one sticks. Because we can change the architecture and design industry, one small idea at a time that ends up being a big idea that then sort of filters out through the whole environment. One of the things that we talk about all the time, and I really hope that we're able to do this one day, is to um, have the DOB buy into signing off on drawings by walking through the immersive environment. Now, that's a hairy one because, as we all know, the DOB is a tough nut to crack. But it's a part of the process that takes a long time. And
Yes.
so we think that we could cut a lot of the time out of that approval process. And also, we could quickly get approvals throughout the construction process if we're able to go into an environment and view and decide together. It also speaks to things like, working with contractors and working with subcontractors. It's been a great tool for us to be able to utilize this with them because, it cuts down our travel time having to go to site all the time. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, we still go to site, but, maybe we go to site every other week because we're able to jump into the environment and view it with them and very quickly make some of the decisions that before you would have to go to site and stand over the set of drawings and look at the space and look at the 2D drawings, to come to a decision on something. Now we can, within a much shorter amount of time, make decisions on something like that. So I think the takeaway is really that it helps to streamline the process and the decision making. And it's also such a great tool for us to be able to make decisions internally, as we're designing the space and as the space is getting constructed.
Well, it's so interesting because you can certainly see and hear the benefits of doing it. And, I can't help but say something, the corniest thing on the planet. It's like somebody like saying, well, I'm going to have this device. It's a telephone, and you're going to dial it. And
Right.
instead of having to walk all the way across town and say, hey, mom, you could just pick up the phone and she'll answer it. You know what I mean? It's like, like it just feels like that. And that's the
Right.
thing. There are always the, what do they call them? Is there the innovators and then the early adopters? You know what I'm saying? It's like
Right.
that whole food chain of people that really do make the things, have the little crazy ideas and that are willing to chase them down and see if they can make them happen. It's
Exactly.
fascinating, actually, you know?
Yeah, it's been amazing to work with my design teams through designs because I'll give you a great for instance. So we had a project recently where we had to import logs of antigrade veneer from Italy. We had to import a block of marble from Italy, and we needed to look at some very precise layup options. And it's very different when you're looking at a layup option, in 2D versus being able to quickly change the options, rotate it, shift it over, book match it, slip match it. You're looking at all these different options and you can really quickly get to what looks the best within the space within, say, 20 to 30 minutes. So it's been a great tool, I think, because there's an assumption that architects and interior designers can always imagine things in their head. So through the use of like hand sketching and drawing and imagining in our head, we're able to quickly design things. But not everyone can do that. So this environment allows everyone to be able to visualize what we're describing and designing for them.
So you're reminding me, and I want to double check if I visualize what you were describing correctly. Ariella Horowitz was on the show several months ago, and she actually is the designer for one of my daughter's childhood best friends. And so,
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
and Lauren is the client and our family friend, and Lauren is very very particular in the best way possible, high
Hmm.
standards, all the things, and she has a very large entry foyer, and I don't know if it's 15 by 30, but it's huge, right? And Ariella described the process of Lauren's involvement in deciding literally where each slab of marble that they imported, I'm assuming from Italy,
Yes.
was going to be laid on that floor. Like, there, and I could imagine Lauren sitting there with the pictures and cutting them out and at night pushing them together and moving them around, you know what I mean? Or whatever method she used to do it. But Ariella was describing how she loves a client that is that involved and cares. Me, I'd be like, okay, there's the marble. See you bye, right? And then when the veins looked really stupid, I'd be like, that looks dumb. And they'd be like, oh, thanks for showing up after the fact, LuAnn, with your opinions, right? But the thing is, what you're describing, if I'm correct, is, maybe you're uploading all of the individual pieces of slab and you're literally manipulating them in real time to create the way they want the veining to go and the way it makes the transition from the hallway to the foyer or whatever.
That's absolutely correct. Yes.
Okay.
And
And that's
so
not possible under any other technology at this point other than your proprietary tool belt. Is that correct?
no, that's not necessarily
Oh,
true.
okay. It's just the longer and didn't look as good is what you were describing.
Well, for us, it's a faster process to be
Mm-hmm.
able to do it the way that we're doing it, and we can manipulate it in real time. And I
Ah,
think that's the big difference is the manipulation in real time when you're in the environment. So
okay.
we are able to quickly, because we had a very similar thing, right? We had all of these slabs out of this block of marble that we had imported, and we really wanted it to be book matched. But trying to get it to book match over an entire lobby, an entire reception area, there was a lot of manipulation happening within the slab. So, in order to get to what we needed it to be for the final result, we needed to lay everything up and be able to walk through a few different options of how to do it. So instead of having to do what we would have normally done, which is take every slab image into Photoshop and then lay it up on top of the 2D drawings, we were able to put it into the 3D environment and then view it in 3D. So you can experience it, as you're walking into the elevator lobby, as you're transversing through the reception area, walking into the boardroom. So it just made a really big difference in getting to the final look that we were going for, and also getting the client buy-in on it.
Wow, 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 wow. This is just another practical question just for my own indulgence here. Once you actually decide which slabs go in which places and you've got 30 or 40 slabs in front of you, how do you mark them so that, 2 weeks, 2 months, whatever years later, the guy on the ground puts them in the right spot? Like, how does that
Yes.
happen?
We're able to, not only are we sharing video of what we're doing in the environment, so we can literally take notes and label things within the environment. So we can share a video of what we have done in the environment with, say, the subcontractor, so that they can clearly see how we have laid everything up and what everything is labeled.
Hmm.
And if we had to, we can print them out as well. That's obviously an option. But we find that it's much more effective for them to be able to view a video of it, because especially when you're looking at something like veining in a marble, we had some very concise book matches on the veins, and there was a reveal between them. And we wanted them to very clearly see how we selected the piece of the slab that we selected and how we were matching everything together. So through labeling and measuring within the tool belt itself, we were able to then send that to the sub in the video so that they could quickly see what we were looking to do.
Amazing, amazing. And I think I could, that was easy enough for me to understand that, they're going to have a visual of it. But I'm like, but when the slab is coming on a slow boat from Italy,
Yeah.
who's marking them? Like, this is grid 1, square 5.
Yeah, so then they're able to view it in our environment, and
Yeah.
then obviously they do a markup,
They
and
have to
then
find them.
yeah,
They have to
yeah,
find them.
yeah.
That's an insane attention to detail. But that is one of those details that, as a consumer, to just be in that environment, it's probably one of those things that we experience as consumers when it's done so precisely and at such a high level that we just experience the feeling of it and don't necessarily understand, whoa,
There's
what
so much that
happened
goes
for
into
this to
that.
happen, right?
Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely correct. I think that a lot of times we don't notice when something is necessarily done well, something like that. But what we do notice, like you mentioned earlier, is when it's not done well and everything is not lining up perfectly, and immediately we're cognizant of something like that not working out. So yeah, if the software is able to help us to design it better, then we've ultimately met our goal.
Interesting, interesting. So tell us a little bit about the types of projects that you work on personally within the firm, as far as the design area. Like, are you working on commercial spaces, workspaces? You doing residential? What's your expertise within the firm, Jessica?
So I do mostly workplace interiors, and then we also do a lot of hospitality. So
Mm.
we have multiple restaurant chains that we're working with right now, and restaurant brands that we're helping them to develop and expand. And then we're doing some hotels. We also do a lot of work with base building, so base building lobbies and amenity spaces. So I'm involved in basically anything having to do with interior design within any of our projects.
And how are you finding the commercial and the hospitality, the hotel, that industry? Because, us as the residential designers have been slammed. I mean, the emails that I'm inundated. I can't keep my head above water. There's project after project. I know WindowWorks is headed for a record-breaking year on top of a record-breaking year in
Yes.
2020. But commercial and, hotel and restaurant, that is a sector of our entire economy that was slammed because of COVID. What are you finding that's happening now at this point, summer 2021?
It's booming.
Oh,
It's
yay.
there's a lot of
Okay.
there's a lot of redevelopment and expansion efforts that are going on, in order to, foresee the future of everyone being back in the dining environment and traveling again. So we have been involved kind of behind the scenes for the last year in helping this redevelopment and planning, for this future that we were all hoping would happen. And it seems like all of a sudden the floodgates have opened and we're all sort of back to our normal lives in a lot of ways. Um,
Interesting.
So yeah, we've been involved behind the scenes in a lot of planning because, as you know, it takes many, many months and years sometimes of planning, especially when you're doing something like, a big rollout
Mm.
of multiple locations. So um, we initially thought the same thing because I think when COVID first hit and everything was closed down for a matter of months, we were all wondering what the future holds. But immediately, I think there was investors who saw the potential in hitting the ground running now so that when everything got back to the new normal, that
Mm.
we were ready to go. Uh,
Well, that's so encouraging to hear. I'm so excited. I mean, just, from a standpoint of business and economy, but from a standpoint of our colleagues in your sector of our industry, I'm really glad to hear that. And I love it because I feel like it's a little crystal ball look into it, like, yay, it's all going to be fine again.
yes.
And my secondary question along those lines is, since your firm is here in the New York City area, what are you finding? Like, my one daughter is a VP at Fox, and they're only going back to the workspace in September in New York City. And even then, at her level, they're sort of like, come if you want, don't if you don't want to. I mean, I'm sure there's much, it's a huge company, and there's, I'm sure, initiatives all the way up and down the totem pole there. However, New York City emptied out like a ghost town. What are
Yes.
you guys finding? What are you seeing happening there?
So we worked with a lot of our clients to help them sort of plan a safe return to the office.
Mm.
Some did return, gradually, and many are returning in September, just like your daughter's company. I think what we have really been seeing is that we're adapting a lot of companies so that they can work in a much more agile environment because most companies are adapting more of a, partial work in the office, work from home,
Right.
um, more of a hybrid environment. And within that environment, we obviously have to rethink the way that we're working when we are in the office. So we're looking at their existing space and helping them to adapt it to not only a non-assigned seat, agile working scenario, but also helping to bolster the activity-based working within the environment so that it works well for this new scenario. For instance, upgrading technology, outfitting rooms so that, our teammates that are at home can feel like they're part of meetings with, half the team in the office and half at home. So bolstering the technology in all the rooms and helping the technology feel, seamless, right? So that we all actually feel like we're together and we're collaborating well. So there's been a lot of that. There's also been a lot of helping our clients to downsize because most people don't necessarily need the same real estate footprint when we're doing this hybrid work environment. We're able to utilize the space much more efficiently within a smaller footprint. So we're helping a lot of our clients to adapt to that as well. And it's really just about being smart with every square foot. It's about looking at how we're utilizing the space through the different activities that we're doing, and then being able to outfit it smartly to help us achieve all of our goals with the different activities that we're doing every day. So from, having somewhere to focus for one-on-one calls or one-on-one video calls, to being able to have a collaborative environment that works well for larger team meetings. And that's, I think, the biggest difference, right? Is the way that we're focusing now and the way that we're collaborating feels a little bit different than it did pre-pandemic.
It's when you think about the changes, even when you just said non-assigned seat, I'm
Hmm.
like, wait. Sometimes I'm at my desk and somebody else is there. Sometimes, like, it just is so crazy to me. But I can see, just talking to my grown kids and their spouses and understanding that it is all changing. And of course, the quality of life for we're talk centric to New York City. She used to have a 2.5 hour commute. Total. You know what I
Right.
mean? And it's funny because on one hand, last summer when she lost the commute and didn't have to go, there was a period of adjustment where she was saying, geez, that was my alone time. That was when I listened to podcasts. That's when I listened to
Right.
music, right? And now, a year and a couple of months later, she's like, oh, I can pick up Bella at 5 o'clock and the two of us can go to the park now. So it's funny because there's been pluses and and negatives, but there's no question you're telling us when the big companies are going to make investments in firms like yours to repurpose their space and to reimagine their square footage and their footprint in that square, the changes are here. It's not a like, hey, a temporary thing, right?
Right. It's definitely, we would all laugh when you hear all of this. The office is dead, and all the articles that were getting published, and we never really felt that. What we felt was that the things that we had already started to see and already started to do for clients like agile seating and activity-based working, that was going to become the norm, and that's exactly what has happened. That I think as employers, none of us really have the option to have that old school mindset of you can't work from home, because everyone knows that they can do it and they can do it effectively. So we all have to,
The cat's out of the bag.
yeah. So we all have to be able to adapt now, especially for recruitment and retention, to be able to offer this perk to our employees so that they can kind of choose how they want to be able to work. Obviously, we want people to come into the office as much as we possibly can, but I think there's a shift in the mindset of when you need to be in the office and what you should be doing in the office. It really becomes much more about collaboration. And maybe it's okay to spend those 2 or 3 days working from home when you need to do your heads down focus work.
Right. Well, I think it's interesting to watch the things change, and when somebody like yourself says we were already having, forward-thinking clients that were developing the agile workspaces, and this just made it more mainstream. It's funny because we had Chris Wallace on several months ago, last summer, as a matter of fact, and he was saying the same thing about video and all of the things as far as the virtual tools for collaboration. He's like, this was happening. COVID just made it a normal, right? And
Right.
so, to your point, at one point earlier, you said how COVID just provided this environment to just ramp it all up and make it like, hey, there's no staying by the wayside any longer, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we've seen that it is really becoming the norm now because it has to.
Yes. And I love this because, when I always search for what's the relationship and what's the crossover to maybe a smaller firm, a firm of one, or a firm of 6 or 10 or something like that, unlike your firm, which is a huge firm and is doing these these huge projects. Even we all have our contacts, right? We all have our contacts. So maybe, you're friends with a CPA who previously had an office in, New York City or Westchester or, Chicago, right? So it's not a firm of 70 or 100 or thousands like Fox that needs to repurpose, but the idea is that this is the trend, and we're all going to possibly face how do we repurpose our environments. So like you said, if I'm a solo CPA, I'm a CPA firm of maybe 8. To
Right.
your point, I need to now provide a space for people to. Susie works at the desk one day, Sally works at the next day. How does that work when it's, that's that change? And then to your point, Susie needs to have a focused phone call private with her client, but the next day we all need a team meeting. And maybe that CPA's office wasn't set up for that at all.
Right.
Right? It
Right.
was all individual offices, and everybody came into the work and they stood at the water cooler. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So there's opportunity for all levels of interior designers to think about the things that you've talked about the way the workplace is changing, and reach out to their network of contacts and say, could I be instrumental in helping you reimagine your space for maximum productivity and enjoyment of the people that you employ, right?
Absolutely. And one of the things that we've noticed happening a lot is that there is less travel, that travel is much more intentional. So, not only talking about traveling to another country or to another state to go view a project, but also just travel within your own city, even. Maybe you don't actually need to go and be there in person. If it's a meeting that doesn't really require you to be there in person, you can achieve it over video. So I think that helps us all to get a little bit more time back in our day
Hmm.
and allows us to be much more intentional about when we're utilizing in-person time versus video time. But that is going to happen, across all market sectors.
Right.
Everyone in the world is kind of going through that. So understanding how we are designing the interior spaces to be able to achieve video calls well, whether they're for a single person or a lot of people, you're absolutely correct. We all have to think about how that's affecting our interior spaces.
Mm. It's so true because, how, I mean, we have a meeting this afternoon, and one of my salespeople said to me, okay, so I'm like, well, I don't know, just zoom in. Like, I
Yeah,
never would have said that a year and a half ago. I never,
right,
not a chance would I have said that a year and a half ago. I've been like,
right.
yes, we all have to be here in person. Get your pens and paper.
Absolutely. It's amazing how quickly it's made all of us adapt to the way that we're thinking about things.
Exactly. And to your point, we had there is an opportunity in the window treatment industry to do the first, and the same with the design industry, no question, but doing that first introductory meeting, that consultation meeting via Zoom. But, with that Window Works, we've done it where the client has requested it. We've done it where, maybe it's out in the Hamptons and we're like, do we need to go 3 hours to see if you're serious? Like, right. Okay. Right. But it's also, I'm consistently walking and I'll see one of my salespeople in a Zoom and I'm like, we've got to set up a dedicated space for Zoom, right? Like for that meeting, it's like the background should look good. There should be a
Yes.
quiet environment. And that's where you as architects and designers can come in and work with their just regular colleagues, their local lawyer, their local realtor. Do you have a great environment set up for this stuff? Because it's almost like, where's the Zoom room now?
Yes,
Right?
absolutely. It went from where's the phone booth to where's the Zoom room. So you're right. It's everything. It's looking at the design of the space, what the backdrop is. The lighting is key
Ugh,
within the space.
it's
The
the truth.
acoustics, as we all know, are key. We've all had that person who has a space that is all hard surfaces and is reverberating, and it makes everyone else on the Zoom miserable.
Right,
So
right.
it's all of those components and looking at all of that and making sure that we're taking that into account when we're designing for the single call or the large group call.
Right. Love it. I love it. So good. So many great lessons. But this tool belt thing that you guys have developed, we've mentioned several times that it's proprietary, but you have made it available to your colleagues. You've now taken the technology and said reminds me of My Doma Studio, where Sarah Daniele, the CEO of My Doma Studio, developed what she needed to run her interior design business. And then as she was running her business, her colleagues are saying, hey, how do you organize that? How do you do that? And then she made it a full-blown platform, and it's for sale to other designers. So you've done the same with ToolBelt, right?
Absolutely. And quite honestly, it was a really happy accident. It all sort of stemmed out of our process and how we wanted to develop our process. And then it turned into something that we were developing proprietary software. And we do want to make it available to other people and help disrupt the way that we're doing it so that others can benefit from it as well. So, absolutely. On the toolbelt.com, you can do a monthly subscription for $50 a month, or you can do a yearly subscription for 500, and then we have it free to students. So
Hmm.
there's also a trial that you can download for a 15-day trial. So we want to make it available to everyone, our colleagues, our friends, our competitors. Our goal is really to, again, disrupt the design industry and to make this tool, which we think makes the whole process easier, available to everyone so that they can utilize it as well.
Very cool. I think it's outstanding. What fun place and challenging place and an environment to work in, to have a leader like Christian and all of you to make this commitment to, I just love that. Anything out of the box I love. I think it's so much fun, and just the idea of kicking it around. But it sounds like you're all very smart people and you know which ideas are good and which ideas you kick to the corner. That's the tough part. So I admire you guys for having a handle on that.
Thank you. It's been great. I think we are all very like-minded and we all had this goal in mind. And so it's been great to kind of see it grow and grow legs and see how it starts to disperse and how we can continue to push it. We're very cognizant of the fact that it's got to be ever evolving. It's got to continue to get better. It has to continue to, interact more with other software that's out there. So through our R&D department, we're constantly looking at how it continues to evolve. Our developers in our design lab are working furiously every day of the week looking at how to continue to evolve it so that it just gets better and better. And I think that's what's so great about it and great about the process is that we can all continue to do that.
So cool. So cool. Well, thank you so much, Jessica. It's been so much fun talking to you. I love having the little crystal ball view. And I also do truly love knowing that commercial and hospitality is on the upswing again. And, thank you for your expertise. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you, LuAnn. It's been lovely talking to you.
It just keeps coming up again and again. Paperless, digital, virtual, right? We just discussed this on episode 702 with Vita on our WTF episode. She shared the digital system for her window treatment business that she swears by and that I'm insanely jealous of. So what's your take? Are you moving to paperless? Have you already mastered it? I have to tell you, between WindowWorks and LuAnn Niagara Inc., I've got one foot in each bucket here, but I can definitely firsthand see the benefits of going paperless, right? Jessica has positioned herself as an innovator in the architectural space by helping to spearhead the digital 360 design process at her firm, and their clients are loving it. Why do even the old school clients go for it? Well, because it helps them visualize spaces and then confidently make decisions at a quick pace. It saves them travel time, meeting time, and endless back and forth communication. Can you imagine being an investor and not having to send a team out to scout real estate? Instead, the property selection with a roughed out design comes to you on your screen with someone like Jessica there on the screen to walk you through it. That alone is enough to have the clients lining up at their door, don't you think? But Jessica's 360 experience goes way beyond that. Once the client makes their decision on the property, she designs the space in Revit and then goes really deep with the visualization and iterations using her ToolBelt software. What's the big difference and why is it so great? Well, what usually happens, right? You finally get everybody together in a conference room and you start pulling out PDFs and design boards. Then there's the input, lots of input, which leads to I'll get back to you with the updated design. And then it starts all over again. And don't forget, you have to have the decision makers there. And if they can't make the meeting, now you're relying on someone else to explain to them what the heck they're looking at on that paper and why those decisions were suggested, right? I mean, it's crazy pants. So even if the decision makers are just one or two homeowners, this can make that decision-making process tighter, right? Without all of that time back and forth. Clients come to you. Remember it always. They come to you and rely on you to bring the design ideas to life for them. They can't see it. Their brains don't work the way your lovely, creative, imaginative brain does, right? But with this type of visualization tool, I think there'd be a lot less defending and explaining your choices and a lot more nodding heads. And you would love that, right? Yes. So here's the thing. I'm certain there's a learning curve with this type of software, just like when Vita was talking about what she does in her business a couple of weeks ago. I was very envious of it, but I also know the work that we will put in at WindowWorks in order to learn it, okay? But I'm thinking it's going to be time well spent, don't you? Right? Jessica and her firm have a remarkable mindset. They actually allocate a percentage of their budget to research and development. How many of us say that? How many of us do that, right? How about if we were to adopt a forward-thinking philosophy like this too, right? Anyway, for one, I think that we can start by acknowledging that we're on our way. We're listening to podcasts. We're learning. We're being introduced to new systems, to new techs, to new ways of solving age-old problems. But the question is, what do we do with this learning, with this insight, right? That's the next step. Okay. So with so much goodness out there these days, we do have to be careful that we don't just get going down shiny object syndrome lane, right? We have to do the research, we have to seek the advice, and we have to give ourselves space to consider if this new thing will push us forward and help us stay competitive in our market and help us be better at what we do. Okay. But you got to give it that consideration, right? It's a balancing act, right? When you're experiencing a period of massive growth, we have the money, but not the time, right? And then when times are lean, so many projects, we have time, but maybe not so much money to justify the investment. But this is why I think their idea to carve out time and money every year for R&D is so smart, okay? I know that we do this at WindowWorks for our marketing. We decide at the beginning of the year, based on the budget, what we're going to do. What if we all did that when it was regard to things like this, regarding, software and things that we are going to invest our time and energy in to bettering our business? I mean, take our show sponsor, MyDoma Studio. I know it's an amazing platform. I know this software will save you time and money, but I also have had many of you say to me, oh, I bought it and I'm not using it. Oh, I started to use it, but I really don't know how to use it. Or I'm using it, but I'm not using it to its full capabilities. So this is that little in-between space where we have to just say, is this something that once I master it, at the end of it, will it impact my business for the positive? And if it does, then I think you do carve out the time and space, okay? Heck, people like Jessica and her company carve out the time and space to create the darn things. The rest of us just have to find out about them and learn how to use them, right? So I also want to mention Revelwoods because they are an innovator too. They took the time and energy to create the innovative tool, okay? And they took an antiquated process of flooring specification and installation and put you in the driver's seat with this. So if you'd like to meet John Dupre, the brainchild behind Revelwoods, please join us at High Point at our meet and greet, our free party, okay? Thursday, October 14th, 2021, or join us for the Power Talk Friday tour on October 15th, 2021, where in one day, I promise you, we're going to blow your mind and transform your business and the way you think about it. All right? You can check the show notes for the links to both of these events and also the link to learn more about Revelwoods. All right? You're also going to find the link in the show notes to the ToolBelt, which Jessica and her company developed. All right? Check it out. All right? Thank you so much for showing up today. Decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at LuAnnNigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.